Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads, and welcome to my weekend books. I've had a pretty decent week in books. I did step outside my comfort zone on one book, and I ended up enjoying it, but now I wish I had kind of read that in another format, but we'll get there. I read 4 books this week, and all of them were really good. The first one was Joe Hill's Horns. I got this at a book swap with members of my book club, our book club. So let me tell you what this is about. I gave this 3 stars to start with. Once, Ig lived the life of the blessed. Born into privilege, the second son of a renowned museum, the younger brother of a rising late-night TV star, Ig had security and wealth and a place in his community. Ig had it all, and more. He had the love of Marion Williams, a love founded on shared daydreams, mutual daring, and unlikely midsummer magic. I don't remember any mutual daring, but whatever. Then, beautiful, vivacious Marion was gone, raped and murdered under inexplicable circumstances, and Ig the only suspect. He was never tried for the crime, but in the court of public opinion, he was, and always would be, guilty. Now, Ig is possessed of horns and a terrible new power. See, this is where I have problems with blurbs. This is what it says. He can hear people's deepest, darkest secrets to go with his terrible new look. Yeah, he can hear them because they say it out loud to him. Now, when he touches it, he can get more, and that is not spoken out loud. But like in the beginning, early on, he's in the doctor's office, this kid is crying, and the mother's just doing nothing about it, and the receptionist is like, I'd like to, say something to that woman. I'd like to create a scene. So they say it out loud to him. It's not that he hears it in silently. Anyway, not the point. He means to use it to find his power, to find whoever killed Marion and destroyed his life. But that's not true either, because someone, again, tells him who did that. So, who writes these blurbs? Being good and praying for the best got him nowhere. It's time for a little revenge. It's time the devil had his due. So there is revenge in this story. And look, I really like the story. It got a little absurd toward the end to me. There was a point where something happened, and then afterwards, I'm not sure if what happened was real or supernatural or what. But there was also a twist that I didn't see coming that I really appreciated. Overall, like I said, 3 stars, solid read. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed my time with Ig. Next up is the book that was a little out of my comfort zone. Olive Kitteridge, Pulitzer Prize winner. This is a novel by Elizabeth Strout, but it's a novel told in stories. I did not realize this until right before I picked it up, and I was looking it up on the Pulitzer Prize website. So I have always had trouble, not always, lately I've had trouble with story collections. And I think when I get to Olive again, which is also told in stories, I think I'm going to listen to this on audiobook. I found that short story collections for me are easier on audiobook if there's a good narrator. But I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Olive Kitteridge. She is very complex. I wrote a note that if I'd read this years ago, I'd wonder what made her so unhappy and wouldn't have been able to relate. I can relate a lot more now, especially, I don't know. Let's see what this is about. If you have not read it, at times stern, at others times patient, at times perceptive, at other times in sad denial, this is true. Olive Kitteridge, a retired school teacher, deplores the changes in her little town of Crosby, Maine, and in the world at large, but she doesn't always recognize the changes in those around her. A lounge musician haunted by a past romance, a former student who's lost the will to live. That was a good story. Olive's own adult child who feels tyrannized by her irrational sensitivities, and her husband Henry, who finds his loyalty to his marriage both a blessing and a curse. As the townspeople grapple with their problems, mild and dire, Olive is brought to a deeper understanding of herself and her life, sometimes painfully, but always with ruthless honesty. So this is actually a much better blurb on the contents of this book. There were some stories that I liked better than others. There were some poignant moments in it, some sad moments in it. It was just really, I can see why it won the Pulitzer Prize. I don't remember how many stars I gave this. I think it was 4. I really enjoyed it. It did take me several days to read it because of the format. And the pacing was, I would go with medium pacing. Another medium-paced book, which I've been bitching so far in this about the blurbs and who writes them. This is one where the cover doesn't really match the inside. I love the cover, but it gives me off a happy, fun vibe. And even though I really love the book, The Griffin Sisters' Greatest Hits by Jennifer Weiner is not a fun, happy, like rom-com-y book. It is very emotion-based, and it's a tale of sisters, which you'll see is a theme that I've been on this week, somehow. Sisters Zoe and Cassie Grossberg were born just a year apart, but could not have been more different, true. Zoe, blessed with charm and beauty, yearned for fame from the moment she could sing into a hairbrush. Cassie was a musical prodigy who never felt at home in her own skin and preferred the safety of shadows. In the early 2000s, when they were on the brink of adulthood, destiny intervened, catapulting Zoe and Cassie into the spotlight as the pop sensation The Griffin Sisters, hitting all the touchstones of the early aughts fame, SNL, MTV, Rolling Stone magazine along the way. But after a whirlwind year in the public eye, the band abruptly broke up. 2 decades later, Zoe's a housewife, Cassie's off the grid. The sisters aren't speaking, and the real reason for the Griffin sisters' breakup is still a mystery. Zoe's teenage daughter, Cherry, who is determined to be a star in spite of Zoe's warnings, is on a quest to learn the truth about what happened to the band all those years ago. As secrets emerge, all 3 women must face the consequences of their choices, the ones they made and the ones the music industry made for them. Can they forgive each other and themselves? That is a key point on this. And will the Griffin sisters ever make music again? I really enjoyed this. It's told in multiple timelines from multiple perspectives. You get Zoe, you get Cassie, you get Cherry. And I would say, again, it's a little bit more medium paced. It took me, I think, 3 days to read this. But like it said, it's a tale of grief and guilt and the things that the music industry can do to a young person. And it's also about sisters. So that is all I have to say. I really recommend it. I got this Barnes & Noble edition. Very high quality. Love this. The next book is also about sisters-ish. And that is Rabbit Moon by another Jennifer. I'm not sure if this is pronounced high or not. I didn't even think to look it up. I was going to say that this was medium paced, but I started reading it on Friday, and then my brother-in-law and my nephew came in, and then yesterday I sat down and finished it in one day. So it was not even a whole day. So it's very fast-paced, I think. This is told from multiple perspectives, and I'll say this. There were some perspectives I wondered initially as I was reading them why that perspective was in there, but it really is about how life touches life. 4 years after their bitter divorce, Claire and Aaron Litvak get a phone call no parent is prepared for. Their 22-year-old daughter, Lindsay, teaching English in China during a college gap year, has been critically injured in a hit-and-run accident. At a Shanghai hospital, they wait at her bedside, hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. The accident unearths a deeper fissure in the family. The shocking event that ended the Litvak's marriage, true, and turned Lindsay against them, true. Estranged from her parents, she is confided only in her younger sister, Grace, adopted as an infant from China. As Claire and Aaron struggle to get their bearings in bustling, cosmopolitan Shanghai, the newly prosperous Miracle City, they face troubling questions about Lindsay's life there, in which nothing is quite as it seems. This is an accurate blurb, as accurate as it can be without giving away any spoilers, which I won't either. I will say I cared little about Aaron and Claire's perspective, except as a means to tell me the story. What I cared about is from Grace's perspective and Lindsay's perspective, and there was also a guy they call Johnny who also gives you insight onto Lindsay's life and what's really going on in China. Because what you hear on the blurb is not what you get in the book, and that is deliberate, I believe, because they can't give away too much. I kind of guessed it early on, but it did not spoil the experience for me at all. At the end, there's kind of a conclusion that is a little bit weird, or not a conclusion, some chance encounters that are a little bit weird, but also close the loop on something in a way. And I wasn't prepared for some things that happened in here. It made me tear up. Overall, I think I gave this 4 stars. Really good book. I would like to read more by her. So, those are the 4 books that I read this week. I am currently reading Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors because I started with the Griffin Sisters, then I went to Rabbit Moon, which featured Grace and Lindsay, and I thought, I've got a sisters theme going on, so I'm going to keep on. This is one of my Book of the Month selections that I think I just bought because it was the only one on the list that interests me, and that's why I'm no longer in Book of the Month, because sometimes I was just picking stuff. Anywho, on audio, I am still listening to the Radium Girls, and I've got to tell you, this is an example of how corporations don't always have the workers' best interest at heart. It is so brutally depicted that at times I've had to turn off listening to it because my mouth hurt listening to this, but it's fantastic. I'm reading this for book club, and I can't wait to discuss it with the other women in the group. And I have made no progress on my nonfiction book, The Women with Silver Wings. I'm going to try to make some progress on this week. If I can't, then I'll soldier on. I'll figure it out. I mean, I'll definitely have to finish it by the end of the month. So, anywho, that is my weekend books. I hope you've had a great reading week, and I'd love to hear what you're reading down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of these books that I've discussed if you've read them. And as always, if you've made it with me this long, thank you for sticking with me on my journey, and happy reading.